All right. Bringing challenge back to Destiny. All right, from the Destiny dev team. Here we are with another update, this time coming from our world systems teams and focusing on the changes coming not only to Vanguard Ops, but also Nightfalls, raids, dungeons, and more. Lightfall is almost upon us, and a lot is changing in the game. Proof of that is the build crafting, abilities, weapons, sandbox, and weapon crafting articles from the last few weeks. But we also wanted to share some details on how we're improving several activities in order to better reward your efforts, especially when you face the hardest content Destiny 2 has to offer. I'm also curious how they're going to address the obvious power creep. Everything hurts now. How much? Well, that depends on you. Philosophically, we are attempting to bring the difficulty levels of Legend closer to the popular Legendary campaign experience and the Master experience closer to day one raids. At the same time, any high difficulty ritual content is designed to last many playthroughs over multiple seasons. So we're making some changes week over week and season over season to keep them fresh. Here's a breakdown of the changes coming to several high difficulty activities, starting with Lightfall. So the basics of high difficulty activities. Adept difficulty is being removed. Hero difficulty will now be available at 1750 power, which is the soft cap. Legend and Master difficulties can be entered once you hit 1800, the power cap. Activity levels for season 20 will be Hero 1770, Legend 1830, Master 1840. All right, gives you an idea of the power jumps here, guys. We're also implementing power level disadvantages to provide a better challenge curve. Hero -5 power levels. Legend -15 power levels. Master -20 power levels. And Grandmaster -25. So Grandmaster still the same, right? It's currently -25, right?
Yes, it is.
But as far as my understanding, Master, Legend, and Hero never had power level disadvantages. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Hero, Legend, and Master next season will also have power level disadvantages. So, okay, so that definitely is going to make everything harder. We've seen it with Heist. Everyone liked and talked about how they enjoyed the difficulty of it. This is probably why this right here is happening. Match game is being removed. Mismatched shields will now take 50% less damage across the whole game. So, essentially giving everything a facelift in terms of challenge, but removing some of these modifiers, or toning down some of these modifiers. Now, burns and high-level activities will be split into surges and threats. Surges increases your outgoing damage. Surges increases elemental damage dealt by 25%. Surges for higher or high difficulty activities change every season based around feature damage types. Feature surge for Season Defiance will be Strand. Weekly rotating surges will be Solar and Void. There will be a seasonal surge now. That really pushes the meta. And weekly rotating surges will only be Solar or Void here. Okay, let's just continue here. Threats increase elemental damage coming from enemies by 25%. High-level activities now also feature overcharged weapons. An overcharged weapon deals 25% more damage. Kinetic damage is also increased by 25% if using a surging subclass. Holy hell, that's on top of the kinetic buffs you're going to be getting. Overcharged weapons can come from several sources. Currently, weapons set per activity, weapons featured as champion counters on the seasonal artifact. Overcharges and surges do not stack. All right, interesting.
There you go.
Overcharged weapons do not get extra damage if they are also surging. You only need one for a given damage source. Combatants are also harder to stagger, and their health has been increased across the board. This is to compensate for surge and overcharge. The effect is strongest on powerful enemies and weakest on rank and file. So, all right, there it is. At the article that we had, a month ago, it talked about how we have all these variety of ways to now stagger champs. But combatants are going to be harder to stagger due to this surge and overcharge buffs that we're going to have in the game. Is the seasonal activity going to have like a strand burn? And then Nightfalls, as like say for instance, Grandmaster Nightfalls will always have a weekly rotating surge that will be Solar or Void? Or is that going to be Solar, Void, and also Strand? Is Strand going to be for everything, or is this tied purely because it says feature surge for Season Defiance? Is that feature surge for the seasonal activity, or does that mean everything?
I think it's everything for this season, and like next season it'll be Solar, and the season after that'll be like Arc and then Void. I think that's the way it's going to be. So you'll always have increased damage for Strand in any high level activity because of the season that you're in.
Okay.
I think that's the way it's working. And then there's on top of that Solar and Void for weekly rotating.
Okay, I got you.
So it'll be on top of that. Make sense?
The good thing about this then is if you're rocking multiple different weapon types, guys, whether it's Strand, Solar, or Void, like you'll have multiple options here to partake in the surge buff. Now, the overcharged weapons, that's going to be specifically tied to the weapon damage type. If I'm understanding this correctly. An overcharged weapon does 25% more damage. It does not stack, though, again, with surges. Kinetic damage will also increase by 25% if using a surging subclass. So it's going to be tied. So if the surge for that week or for that season, if the surge for that week is solar and you're rocking a solar subclass, your kinetic damage will get the 25% buff. On top of that, kinetic damage is getting increased, guys, by the way, especially kinetic specials is going up to, it's getting like a 1.15 multiplier. And kinetic primers is a 1.1. I know it's going to sound complicated. We'll probably end up getting used to this. It's just interesting that there's going to be a season-wide burn or season-wide surge buff. That's interesting. And obviously, this is going to push every player to want to use Strand. I mean, that's really what it's going to do. It's like, okay, don't use Strand if you don't want to, if you just want to partake in but what if you're in an activity that doesn't actually have the weekly rotating surge? What if you're in an activity that only has the Strand surge? Then you may actually be putting your team at a disadvantage. The other part here about combatants are harder to stagger. That's interesting.
That's needed. That was needed. Let's be real.
Is that champion stagger, or is that like a stagger effect
on enemies?
On
I think
enemies.
It's just a stagger. Like there's a modifier on some things where it's like combatants are harder to stagger. I think that's
okay.
That's a thing right now, but I'm guessing they're just making that across the board and removing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I'm people are saying it right here. Stagger. They're meaning stagger, not stun. We're going to continue, guys. Apologies. I just wanted to clarify this section before we move on. Now, what is not changing? Equipment is still locked on Legend and Master difficulties as well as Grandmaster Nightfalls. Matchmaking is still available on Hero, but closed on Legend, Master, and Grandmaster Nightfalls. I really wish they just opened that thing up. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of teams that would get messed up, but still, it'd be nice. Just let them go. Let them. I guess at the same time, they're waiting for in-game LFG to fill that void. Now, modifiers that affect enemy types. Fire Pit, for example, or Fire Team Coordination, Chaff, Togetherness, etc. Also, champion availability remains the same. Grandmaster Nightfall revive limitation and wipe conditions schedule stay the same. So, all right. The high score strikes back. Ritual activities are at the core of Destiny 2 experience. That's why we have plans to improve on these familiar playlists that we all cherish so much. Today, we are focusing on the Vanguard Ops playlist. So, strike refreshes. Lake of Shadows and Arms Dealer are being updated with new enemies, new encounters, new mechanics, and new objectives. All right. Expect them to be much tougher than before and less Sparrow friendly. Is Bungie trying to say that we're not going to be able to pop a Sparrow at all in Lake of Shadows? Okay. I'm curious to know how much they're going to amplify the difficulty here. Like Lake of Shadows has normally been like the easiest strike. So I wonder if they're going to end up like just over amping this thing and making it the hardest strike. We're also working on adjusting other strikes like Ex's Crash and the Inverted Spire. So they're hitting like a lot of like the beta and vanilla Destiny 2 strikes. The presence on the Vanguard Ops playlist has been dramatically reduced. They won't be part of the Nightfall rotation until brought to parity. Gotcha. Now, is that just for Ex's Crash and Inverted Spire? Lake of Shadows and Arms Dealers is going to be available in Lightfall, right?
Yes.
Okay. But Ex's Crash and Inverted Spider won't be available, guys, until it has been amped. Now, Vanguard's Ops playlist, Psion Battlegrounds, and Heist Battlegrounds will become part of the Vanguard's Ops playlist. The playlist is now power disabled, like Gambit and Crucible. This means you won't have a damage advantage over enemies or them upon you, no matter your power level. Daily rotators and weekly singes have been removed and replaced with one random weekly surge, one random daily threat, and one daily random modifier for my best of collection, including Subtle Foes, Lightning Crystals, and more. Okay, so interesting. So I get the weekly surge, one random daily threat. Up here, it says threats increase elemental damage coming from enemies by 25%. So is it going to be specific?
I think it is going to be specific. I think that kind of just made it clear.
Yeah, that seems to give more clarity on that, guys. It seems like it isn't going to be overall elemental damage. So everything I just said a second ago about threats was wrong. This is just burns. I mean, it's very similar to what we have currently in the game, just not 50%, but 25%.
And it's not the same as the damage boost we get. It can be, we get a arc damage boost, but then we take more damage from Void.
Yeah.
Mixed match.
And Jay's saying the same. They're removing the verb burn. I guess because what is it? Is it tied to? Okay. And they're replacing it with threats. All right. I see. Yeah. Okay. Now, Vanguard Ops scoring. We're adding scoring to the Vanguard Ops playlist. Just like in Nightfalls, you can earn points for killing enemies and other events, precision kills, picking up wards, reviving teammates, with a multiplier based on the specific strike. The higher your score, the larger your Vanguard rank multiplier will be. You get a one-time multiplier in Vanguard ranked earning for getting below 30,000 points, or earn for getting below 30,000 points. The multiplier increases every 5,000 points after the initial 30,000. The largest multiplier available is 7 times for getting over 250,000. So obviously, I mean, what do we get on most GMs right now?
Like 300k?
Yeah, somewhere around 300k. This applies to all Vanguard modes, including Nightfalls. All right. Now, Vanguard challenges. The Vanguard screen challenges are being adjusted to reflect these changes. To complete the weekly Vanguard challenge, you will now need to complete Vanguard activities with a surging subclass, or whatever the subclass is for that week. It can be either the seasonal surges for Nightfalls or Vanguard Ops weekly surge. Also, complete 5 activities. You get increased progress for harder difficulties, and a single Grandmaster Nightfall completes this challenge. All right. So there's going to be challenges tied to the Vanguard playlist itself. Does it say like what the reward's going to be? Is that just going to be kind of like what we get from seasonal challenges? Like
I think it's like a pinnacle, essentially.
So just the pinnacle?
Right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But no like huge wad of XP or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Nightfalls are dark and full of terrors. Nightfalls are getting a tad more challenging, to the point where you have to think twice before jumping into one without the proper build. Take one thing into consideration. Once you reach the maximum effectiveness level, how high your power level is won't make a difference, or how many extra artifact levels you have for that matter. Battlegrounds will slowly become part of the Nightfall playlist, starting with Mars Heist Battleground. We will include others in the following seasons. 2 surges available, threats dependent on the feature Nightfall, and 1 feature overcharged weapon. Combatants are also going to be harder to stagger and have more health. Nightfall activities levels for season 20, Heroes 1770, Legend 1830, Master 1840, Grandmaster also 1840. But the power delta disadvantages are different here. Hero -5, Legend -15, Master -20, Grandmaster -25. So there's going to be a cap, guys, to our potency. You won't be able to over level here. Now, maximum effectiveness targets: Heroes 7065, Legend 1850, Master 1820, Grandmaster 1850. Now, the Nightfall Weekly Challenge now requires you to attain 200,000 points across multiple Nightfall runs, rather than 100,000 points in a single run. Okay, that's a pretty big bump.
Mm-hmm.
Was it because you could get 100,000 in Master?
Might have been that, yeah.
And they want you to do Grandmaster?
I didn't want it to be a lot more difficult to get 100k. You could even on some Nightfalls get 100k on Legend.
Could you get it on Legend? Okay.
It was a little bit too confusing, like which ones you could get 100k, like on certain difficulties.
Yeah.
Like some just didn't have enough ads for it too, and it was really annoying because if you didn't know, you didn't know.
Well, now for sure you're gonna. I mean, in my opinion, unless they change some of the scoring up a little more, but in my opinion, you're gonna have to do Grandmaster to get 200,000
in one run.
Yeah, in one run. Yeah, that's right, in one run. If not, you just do multiple runs. Yeah.
Well, that's gonna kind of suck. Then you're gonna have to wait like 2 months until GMs are available, or like a month and a half.
Well,
I think you'll be able to get it in Master, but a bit more difficult.
That's just to get it in a single run, though, Les. You can still do multiple runs right now and get up to 200,000 points.
Yeah.
So
you can either do like 2 Nightfalls or
saying.
3. You know, it just depends on your pace.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. It's just you got to reach a certain score. Okay.
All right. Raids, dungeons, and dungeons get the power delta treatment. We know the master difficulty experience for dungeons and raids had its flaws, so we're making a few changes that those looking for a challenge should certainly find appealing. So 1 overcharge weapon, 2 surges, no threat modifier, Combatants don't have increased health or increased stagger resistance. We want to bring them into line with other master experiences without the need to buildcraft towards surges or overcharges. So, interesting. This almost sounds like they're going to get easier.
Yeah. Those looking for a
Definitely.
challenge should certainly find appealing. They give us 2 surges to be more OP, 1 overcharged weapon, so that we're stronger. There's no threats, and the commands are not harder to kill. What?
Someone says you're negative 20 light, though. Oh,
That is true.
gotcha.
Oh, so it's like more like contest, right? Is what they
You're
said,
like
like
a
a day 1
contest already,
experience.
Right,
Okay.
right.
If that's the case. I'm down.
Okay. And you're not going to be able to match the level. That's, dude.
Yeah.
Remember we did, what was it, Master? Which dungeon did we do Master Day 1?
We did Master Kaido under
Yeah.
level.
Oh my God, that was so hard. Day 1, we were getting slapped. I mean, we finally beat it, but it was a bitch. Okay, so being not minus 20, guys, you're definitely gonna have to take advantage of the surges and overcharge weapon, 100%. But just being under leveled is gonna hurt. The content is getting substantially more difficult. All right. No activity left behind. We are aware that lost sectors and weekly campaign missions are not as rewarding as the community would like. We actually agree. Same thing with Dares of Eternity and the Wellspring. The passion around them is appreciated and your feedback is always clear. They should be a bit more challenging. Here are our plans to improve not only them, but other activities too. So lost sectors, 1 overcharged weapon, 2 surges. Threats depend on the feature lost sector. Combatants are also harder to stagger and have more health. This is available in Legend and Master difficulties. Lost sectors feature a plus 20 combat delta rather than minus 15 or minus 20. We will be monitoring completion rates and times during Season 20 to see if exotic income drops need to be adjusted. There will also be additional paths to acquire Lightfall exotic armors that you can discover on February the 28th. Lost sectors feature a plus 20 combat delta rather than minus 15, minus 20. So
Yes, rather than being under leveled, you'll be over leveled.
So
Yeah.
you can actually be over leveled in those activities. Okay. So, and I guess they're saying that they're going to be monitoring exotic Ingram drop rates because they do drop pretty frequently. Due to us being over leveled, we may actually see a pullback in drop rates for exotics. Typo has to be.
I mean, it says plus 20 rather than minus 15, minus 20. So
My guess would be is this just makes it more friendly for people that are not like leveling up 24/7, and you can go in with under leveled stuff like a certain weapon and you get plus 20.
They hardly drop. Y'all have a hard time with drop rates in lost sectors?
I do not personally.
I don't.
I think in like 5 runs, I'll get the new exotic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
I get it like in 2 tries.
Yeah.
Exactly. Read the next line though. The next line's interesting.
Oh, you're talking about there will be additional paths to acquiring Lightfall exotic armors that you can discover on February the 28th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's going to pull you away. I mean, there's been some complaints about lost sectors, you know, people having to farm that to unlock their associated exotic.
I would guess it's just there's just not enough options to get exotics that they got tired of it, because at the start there was so much love for the lost sectors and exotic farm. Like it was really, really praised heavily. That's like the only way right now. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I remember having to do a lost sector 100 times to get Doom Archers.
What?
You know,
that's a brand new exotic though.
You know what
That's a exotic you already have probably.
exotics have been weird. Like back in the day, public events was the best exotic farm. And so, and then Forsaken exotics were just purely RNG. I think, what was it, 6 months after Forsaken launch, and I finally got one eye mask. Lost sectors and where they're at, where they're going, still not the best, but guys, it's a hell of a lot better. RNG exotics it was so shite. I mean, by the time you got certain exotics, the entire expansion could be over. Nightmare Empire hunts and campaign weekly missions, 1 overcharged weapon, 2 weekly rotating surges. Threats depend on the type of activity. Combatants are also harder to stagger and have more health. 3 difficulty settings available: Hero -5, Legend -15, and Master -20. Okay. So again, they're raising the difficulty here. Desert Turning and Wellspring, 2 rotating overcharged weapons, weekly rotating surges, 1 threat. Combatants are also harder to stagger and have more health. Available in Legend difficulty on Dares of Eternity and Master difficulty on Wellspring. Extinguish activated on Master. Teams can wipe on a time limit if an objective is failed. Okay. Wow. So Extinguish is on Master for Dares and Wellspring. All right. Now, seasonal battleground playlist. Shares the difficulty setting for Season 19's highest battlegrounds. Hero difficulty is -5 power level. Weekly rotating surge, same one as Vanguard Ops playlist. Rotating threats, no overcharge weapons, and combatants have reduced health scaling and regular stagger resistance. Now, they have a final note here. As we said in Lightfall in the Year Ahead article, all the variety in the world would not matter if the content itself was not engaging and interesting. In other words, there's no substitute for a good challenge. With all these changes coming to activities, we hope we're able to reignite the excitement for some of our favorite content in the game. Only 7 more days to go until you can test all of this for yourselves in Lightfall. All right, across the board, guys, everything is becoming more difficult. Maybe the lost sector is about the +20 combat delta. Maybe that's just the max. Like, you can't go any higher than +20. Not starting off at you walk in there and you're already +20 above the combat delta, right? So, but everything across the board, the main takeaway for this, guys, burns are essentially just getting renamed to surges and threats. And then you'll have an overcharged weapon type. Overcharge and surge does not stack, but overcharged weapons does apply to actually kinetic damage is increased based on the subclass if it's matching the surging elemental damage for that week. And there will be a seasonal surge, which will be strand next season, and weekly rotating surges, and they seem to just be narrowing it down to 2 this season, which would be Solar and Void, which is obviously going to make me adjust my builds. Like, I'm probably going to be heavily invested, if not in strand builds, but Solar and Void based builds now.
We already are right now.
Yeah, I'm already on a void build, but like for instance, you know, Lord of Thunder, I was very much thinking about bringing that into the day one raid, you know what I mean? But now I may not bring that.
So
will day one raid have these surges though? I don't think they said it would.
there's a chance. I want to ask, what do you guys think the point is of the surges and threats?
I think it's just so they can kind of mix and match. So like you do more damage with Solar, but then you take more damage from Arc or something like that, right? I think that's kind of the base of it.
I think,
yeah,
personally, this is a good answer to try to add more replayability value to just the entire game. They like slapped on threats and surges to almost everything that we do in PvE, and it's like you're never always going to just be using like restoration bonk time 24/7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You keep switching it up because the game requires you to, pretty much, and it'll keep it, I guess, more fresh and replayable for you.
Yeah.
I gotta say the rewards gotta be there too though. These are all great quality life changes, but what's the reward for like doing, you know what I mean?
I don't think we're getting increased rewards. The rewards will just have an increased value because they're much that harder to get.
Sure. Less about the day one raid. I don't know it, but right here it says the raids and dungeons are going to have 2 surges plus 1 overcharged weapon for the master difficulty. So like, I don't know, contest mode may not.
Yeah, contest is not master is
Sure.
the thing I'm pointing out. So I don't think it's gonna do it in day one, but then for master, it's definitely gonna be there.
Yeah. Can you
As
go
well.
over overcharged weapons? Right now, when you have a feature burn in a playlist, it's like, all right, all void damage does 25% more damage, and all incoming void damage is 50% more damage, right? You're taking 50% more void damage. The way these surge and threats work is now you'll actually have this split. So you could be dealing more damage with Solar, but taking increased damage with threats for Arc, for instance, right? Now, as far as overcharged weapons go, this seems like another split. So maybe overcharged weapon, I don't know. It could be set to a weapon type. Let's see, overcharged weapons can come from several sources. Currently, weapons set per activity. Weapons features champion counters on the seasonal artifact. So I'm assuming, guys, if there's anti-barrier pulse rifle, then that weapon would be considered overcharged and will get the overcharged buff, which is the 25% more damage. So, and it seems to be split per weapon type. So I think in this instance, it'll be auto rifles, you know, scout rifles,
You can start
grenade
it.
launchers. Okay. Does that offer a little more clarity on that? Does that seem to make sense, guys? It's another buff within a buff. So if you're in a situation where you're like, oh God, I'm going into this activity, I don't want to rock this specific build with this elemental type damage, but I can just rock my auto rifle and it's taking advantage of overcharged weapons. I can just rock my auto. You see what I mean? And you'll still get the 25% buff. Keep in mind, surges and overcharged weapons do not stack as they specify. Isn't overcharge another version of the Vanguard Strike rotator that buffs heavy weapons? Similar, but I'm assuming it's going to be even more specific because they mentioned artifact mods. I'm assuming it's going to be the actual archetype of weapon, or the type of weapon. So sidearms, auto rifles, sniper rifles. It seems like it's gonna be very specific. All right, guys, that is your article. I hope we clarified as much as this. I feel like we're all learning together right now.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.